Hi Andrew, thank you for agreeing to take part in the London School of Business and Finance Great Minds series today. Perhaps we could start with you providing us with a little bit of context and tell us a little bit about the Guardian Media Group, perhaps with a focus on your global operations.
Yeah, so the Guardian Media Group is a collection of assets whose sole purpose is to make sure that the Guardian newspaper, which is the heart of the group, can be sustained in perpetuity, which is the core of our trust that's there. So the group is made up of the Guardian newspaper, and the Guardian newspaper is supported by a series of assets around it that fund that newspaper in perpetuity. So the assets include investments in a B2B business, and have in the past included investments in Auto Trader, regional papers, radio businesses.
And in terms of the global operations?
So globally, we have, at the core, the Guardian newspaper has over 140 million browsers every month. And we have operations in America and Australia. And of the readers we have every month, a third are in the UK, but 2/3 are outside the UK. So we are really a global newspaper. Right. And I think we are now the third largest newspaper, quality newspaper in the world. Really? And in the UK, the most trusted news brand, even ahead of the BBC.
Yes, well,
so great position.
Indeed. What would you say some of the key challenges are facing the group in terms of the global context, and how do you envisage the group responding to those challenges?
So the core challenge we have, or I'd say it's an opportunity, is that the model for distribution of news has changed completely in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Before, the owners of news had the whole distribution channel of you owned your printing presses, and you transmitted the way you wanted to get it out through the shops. Yep. The reality of the world now is that most news is consumed through digital channels, and the control of those channels is no longer with proprietors of the news businesses. So that is a challenge, but to me it's also the opportunity, because that's allowed us to move from being a 200,000, 300,000 print subscriber copy based in the UK to now being, as I said, 140 million browser news brand globally, which is a completely different position. So most media companies are really trying to adjust to that change in distribution, and many are really struggling to embrace what that means. But I think The Guardian is succeeding where others are struggling.
The Guardian is a very strong brand internationally. What would you say the reasons for its sort of global recognition, its global reach?
First of all, the most important thing is the authenticity of the brand and the challenge. So running stories which other people, find difficult, like WikiLeaks or Snowden, are a core. Sure. But secondly, I think commercially, very important, we've embraced the opportunities that the digital world has given us. Mm-hmm. We've decided to pursue a very open strategy because we believe that most content will be consumed in an open way, not behind a paywall. We've embraced mobile, and we're now embracing social media. So from The Guardian consumption, over half that consumption is now on social media, and over half that consumption is mobile. Mm-hmm. And that's changed in the last 3 years, let alone the last 10 years.
Yeah. In your opinion, what are the advantages of recruiting talent internationally and from taking students from different culturally diverse backgrounds?
I think it's fantastic and essential. I think an ability for an organisation to keep getting fresh ideas and fresh thinking makes it a very exciting place to work, mm-hmm. but also, if it's managed the right way, gets sparks of innovation and ideas and changing all the time. And as you said, we are global, so we are challenging how do we make sure we keep the essence of what we're about in new countries like America and Australia without compromising. And one of the best ways is to have good international challenge and a good breadth of diverse individuals working here, both in the UK and abroad.
What would you say the opportunities are for graduates worldwide within the Guardian Media Group?
So, we continue to, I want the best people here, and I want the people who enjoy the challenge of trying to figure a way in a new landscape. How we find that is going to be some graduates, but also some people with more experience. So I just want to find the best people, but I have to do it within a financial envelope. So sure. It's not an open book to get people in, but we will always try and find the best people to do it, whether it's the best journalists, mm-hmm. the best engineers. We have 150 engineers here working on product innovation and design. Whether it's the best sales team, we won Sales Team of the Year award last year in the UK media space. So it's making sure I've got the best talent, the most innovative talent who are happy and cope with the ambiguity and change that we're going through as well.
In terms of the drivers of education these days, clearly technology and e-learning are two of the main ones. Could you talk a little bit about how The Guardian uses e-learning to help develop its people?
So we're using it in very practical ways as a means of making training faster and perhaps more effective in many ways. Are we embracing it as fully as we should be? Probably not. And I think we have to explore and continue to explore e-learning, but also still the face-to-face time. So
Sure.
a bit like journalism, a lot of people say that journalism could be done by algorithms and machines, but they miss the point that it has to be involved people and editing and the skills that are there, yeah. And I think education's the same. So we are using e-learning, but we are also very clear that something like e-learning is not the only way or the most effective way necessarily to teach people.
What other ways do you envisage helping develop people going forward?
It's by giving people opportunity. It's both bringing new talent in, as we talked about, bringing them in structured programs. So we have taken in 12 graduates this year, but it's finding graduates with the right skills. So an interesting stat is that we had 400 applicants for one finance place, and we had only 10 applicants for 14 engineering places in computing. So it's actually trying to find people with the right mix of skill sets. But then at the other end of the extreme, it's also taking people who've worked here a long time and giving them the skills that digital opportunities provide them as well. And that's just as important as it is bringing younger talent through as well.
To what extent would you say that innovation drives the business? And how do you try to harness innovation to develop the Guardian and the Observer brands?
In a creative business like us, in a business that involves people, innovation is the key. And it's about finding the application of innovation to the very essence of the journalism we do, whether it's embracing the social networks fully. So I spent 5 weeks in the last year in California, really understanding and spending time with most of the core platforms you'd expect me to, but also new ones like Pinterest, which have come through very quickly, spending time. So innovation and ideas are the very essence of how we keep an edge and how we keep evolving, keep changing. But it's not going to come from me, it's going to come from everyone in the business being innovative and entrepreneurial.
Looking at things on a more personal level, here's an easy question for you. What kind of a leader would you say you are?
I'll let other people decide what kind of leader I am or I'm not, and I guess it's
if one of your
hard to
team
define.
was in, what would they?
I don't know. I mean, what would they say? I mean, I don't know. It's very hard to define. I think I think leadership is one of those concepts that is the context in which you're operating in. A successful leader in one business may be unsuccessful in others. So it's actually trying to do the right thing by the business. I talked about authenticity of the brand. I think the core essence of leadership in the current world is authenticity as well. It's actually loving the company you work for and enjoying the brand that you're involved in, which I certainly do, having a passion for what you do, having interest and engagement in what you do, and then trying to get that across to people in a structured way through a strategy. The kind of essence of the leader having some magic potion that works isn't true. I think it's all about what's important to you and having passion for what you do.
Right, okay. You mentioned WikiLeaks earlier in passing. That brings us on to the whole notion of journalistic standards, ethics, all that kind of thing. What does the group do to ensure that you maintain the highest journalistic and ethical standards?
So again, the way the group is structured, the way it's set up is through a trust, and the trust devolves commercial responsibility to myself, and it gives editorial responsibility to the editor. And I think that independence has been the best policing force we have around the nature of the ethics and the way journalism is done. So the editor is accountable to the trust, and that puts real responsibility on it. It takes off the responsibility all the time of the commercial aspects, but gives them responsibility for ethics and for the journalism as well. So I think at our essence that's why we are so successful and why we're able to keep that independence.
Right. And in terms of the whole notion of corporate governance, you feel that the structure that you have here is a workable one?
Absolutely. Well, you can see it through the results. So we're reducing the core losses in the Guardian. We have a portfolio of assets which are worth over $1 billion to fund the Guardian. Right. So in commercial sustainability that has worked, and as we saw through the phone hacking cases as well, it's worked very well in the journalistic integrity as well.
Sure. What advice would you give graduates globally, specifically in the UK, in terms of wanting to enter a career in the media?
So if you want to be in media, I guess the main thing would be have a genuine interest in it, have an interest in the technology that's going on, and play with it and work with it and embrace it. So if you're interested in journalism, you really, what's a topic you're passionate about and write blogs about it or cover it. If you're interested in multimedia technology, it's making sure you play with the video technology that's so cheap and accessible right now. Sure. If you're into the commerciality of selling it, it's understanding the intricacies of the different platforms you're selling against and the technology that's disrupting it. But really deep enjoyment of both the core subject but also the kind of technology disruption that's going on in that subject.
Andrew, thanks very much indeed.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks.